I'm Melanie Williams, 26 years old, and I once thought my sister Ashley and I were inseparable. As her maid of honor, I spent months helping plan her perfect day. Then, 2 nights before the wedding, I woke up feeling strange and discovered the unthinkable. My waist-length hair had been chopped off while I slept. My own parents stood in the doorway, scissors in hand, telling me it was for Ashley's special day. If you've ever experienced family betrayal, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button to join me on this journey. Before everything happened, my waist-length auburn hair was my defining feature. People would stop me on the street to ask if it was real or comment on its shine and thickness. I'd been growing it since middle school, carefully maintaining it with regular trims and deep conditioning treatments. It wasn't just hair to me, it was part of my identity. Our family always seemed picture-perfect from the outside. My mom, Diana, 52, worked as a high school counselor, always ready with advice and a shoulder to cry on, for her students at least. My dad, Robert, 54, ran a successful insurance agency and coached Little League on weekends. And then there was Ashley, my older sister by 3 years, who had always been the more outspoken of us two. Growing up, Ashley and I shared a bedroom with twin beds covered in matching floral comforters. We'd stay up late whispering secrets and giggling until Mom would knock on the wall, telling us to go to sleep. Those are some of my favorite memories, making shadow puppets with a flashlight, planning our future dream houses, and protecting each other from the monsters we imagined lived under our beds. Our shared love of beauty pageants started when Ashley was 8 and I was 5. Mom signed Ashley up for a local competition, and I cried until they let me participate in the younger division. We spent weekends traveling to small competitions around the state, collecting tiny trophies and satin ribbons we displayed proudly on our shared bookshelf. Things changed around the time I turned 13. I won the Junior Miss Sunshine State title that Ashley had competed for twice without placing. While she hugged me on stage, something shifted in our relationship. Her congratulations felt hollow, her smile forced. That night, she didn't want to talk about the competition like we usually did. Instead, she turned off her lamp early and faced the wall until morning. From that point on, a subtle competition threaded through our relationship. Ashley began to measure herself against me in ways I didn't understand at the time. If I brought home an A on a test, she would mention how she had gotten an A+ on the same test when she took it. If a boy asked me to a dance, she would casually drop that he had asked her first the year before. Despite being older, Ashley seemed to feel she lived in my shadow. She never said it directly, but I could see it in the way her face would tighten when relatives commented on my grades or appearance. I tried to downplay my achievements around her, even turning down an opportunity to skip a grade because I didn't want to graduate the same year as her. College only widened the gap between us. I received a partial scholarship to study interior design at a well-regarded university, while Ashley changed majors 3 times before settling on communications at the state college. By the time I graduated, I had already secured an internship at Crawford and Mitchell, one of the most prestigious design firms in the city. Within 2 years, I was hired as a full designer with my own clients. Ashley's post-college years were more tumultuous. She cycled through entry-level jobs, never staying anywhere longer than 8 months. Her dating life followed a similar pattern, intense beginnings followed by dramatic breakups that would leave her crying on our parents' couch for weeks. Each time, Mom and Dad would comfort her, assuring her the right job and right man were just around the corner. The pattern was so predictable that when Ashley started dating Trevor, I mentally prepared myself for the inevitable fallout. Trevor Kennedy was 32, handsome in a conventional way with his dark hair and blue eyes, and worked as a financial analyst. We met at a client appreciation event my firm hosted. I had designed his company's executive offices the year before. What I didn't expect was the way Trevor initially gravitated toward me at that event. We chatted for almost an hour about the design choices I'd made for his office building before Ashley swooped in, introducing herself with a brightness that bordered on desperate. I politely excused myself to check on other guests, and by the end of the night, they were exchanging phone numbers. Their relationship progressed quickly, and within 6 months, Ashley was flashing a princess-cut diamond ring at family dinner. I was genuinely happy for her. Trevor seemed stable and kind, exactly what Ashley needed after her string of bad relationships. But even in her moment of joy, I caught her watching me, gauging my reaction, as if my approval would somehow validate her happiness. "He could have asked anyone," she said pointedly during that dinner, "but he chose me." Mom squeezed her hand. "Of course he did, sweetheart. You're special." My parents had always been this way, ready to build Ashley up, especially if they perceived she was feeling insecure compared to me. They meant well, but their approach fostered rather than healed the rift between us. Dad would buy Ashley an expensive gift if I received an award. Mom would plan a special outing with her if I had a success at work. It was as if they were perpetually trying to balance an invisible scale. When Ashley asked me to be her maid of honor, I was surprised but touched. Despite our complicated relationship, she was still my sister, and I wanted to support her on her important day. I accepted enthusiastically, hoping this shared experience might help rebuild the closeness we'd lost. "No one else I'd rather have by my side," Ashley said, hugging me tight. For a moment, it felt like we were kids again, planning our future weddings under blanket forts. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. The way she added, "Just don't outshine the bride, okay?" with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. The way Mom nodded in agreement behind her. The way Dad joked about keeping me away from the single groomsmen. But I was too focused on the possibility of reconnection to recognize the danger ahead. I threw myself into maid of honor duties with enthusiasm, determined to help give Ashley the perfect wedding day. I had no idea that my dedication would be rewarded with betrayal, or that the wedding preparations would expose the ugliest sides of my family's dynamics. 6 months before the wedding date, Ashley created a detailed wedding planning binder with color-coded tabs and daily checklists. She appointed me as her wedding planning deputy, which essentially meant I was responsible for executing most of her ideas while she maintained final approval on everything. Despite my demanding job at the design firm, I dedicated every weekend and many weeknights to wedding preparations. I created custom table centerpieces featuring hand-painted wine bottles wrapped with fairy lights and fresh flowers. I designed personalized place cards with watercolor washes that matched the bridesmaid dresses. I even hand-lettered all 150 invitations because Ashley didn't like the calligrapher's samples. "Nobody else would do this for me," Ashley said one night as we stuffed invitation envelopes in my apartment. "My friends offer to help, but they don't have your eye for detail." I smiled, pleased by the rare compliment, my fingers cramping from hours of meticulous work. That's what sisters are for. What I didn't mention was that I'd canceled plans with Eric, my boyfriend of 2 years, 3 weekends in a row to accommodate Ashley's ever-expanding wedding to-do list. Or that I'd been staying up until 2 in the morning to finish client presentations because my evenings were consumed by wedding crafts. As the weeks passed, Ashley's behavior grew increasingly erratic. Minor issues became major catastrophes. When the bakery called to confirm the cake flavors and accidentally mentioned vanilla instead of almond, Ashley burst into tears and declared the wedding was cursed. When one bridesmaid couldn't make a dress fitting due to a work emergency, Ashley didn't speak to her for a week. The other bridesmaids, Jessica and Tara, exchanged concerned glances during these episodes but said nothing. They were Ashley's college friends and had known her longer than they'd known me, but even they seemed taken aback by her intensity. "Is she always like this?" Jessica whispered to me during a particularly tense cake tasting where Ashley had criticized every sample. "No," I said, trying to be loyal. "It's just wedding stress." The breaking point came during our appointment at Elegant Bride Boutique. Ashley had already selected her gown, a stunning off-shoulder mermaid style with lace appliques, and this appointment was for the bridesmaids. We had agreed on dusty rose dresses, and the boutique had several styles for us to try. I emerged from the dressing room in a simple A-line with a sweetheart neckline that complemented my figure. The boutique owner clasped her hands together. "Gorgeous. The color is beautiful with your complexion and hair." I turned to seek Ashley's approval and found her staring at me, her expression a mix of anger and panic. Before I could speak, she burst into tears. "You can't wear that," she sobbed. "Everyone will be looking at you instead of me." The boutique fell silent. Jessica and Tara froze mid-conversation. The owner awkwardly excused herself to check inventory. "Ash, I'm just trying it on," I said quietly. "We can pick something else." "You always do this," she continued as if I hadn't spoken. "You always have to be the center of attention." Mom, who had been quietly observing from a plush chair in the corner, immediately came to Ashley's side. "Sweetheart, calm down. Melanie will find something less flattering." The word choice wasn't lost on me, but I bit my tongue. For peace, I agreed to a different dress, a boxy, high-necked style that did nothing for my figure and made me look washed out. Ashley immediately brightened, declaring it perfect. Later that evening, Mom pulled me aside while Ashley was in the bathroom. "Melanie, I need to ask you a favor for the wedding." "Another one?" I tried to joke, but her expression remained serious. "Your sister is very sensitive right now. This is her special day, her one time to shine." Mom lowered her voice. "Would you consider toning down your appearance for the wedding? Maybe wear your hair up, minimal makeup." I stared at her, stunned. "You want me to make myself less attractive for her wedding?" "Don't put it like that," Mom said, looking uncomfortable. "It's just you know how you naturally draw attention. Ashley needs this day to be about her." To keep the peace, I agreed to wear minimal makeup on the wedding day. It seemed a small concession if it would make Ashley happy and reduce family tension. I didn't mention the conversation to Eric, knowing he would be outraged on my behalf. The bachelorette party should have been fun, a weekend at a vineyard resort with a bridal party. We had massages scheduled, wine tastings arranged, and a private dinner reservation. But even there, Ashley's insecurities surfaced. "Your hair is so pretty," she said, running her fingers through my long locks as we prepared for dinner. "I've always been jealous of it, you know. Trevor mentions it all the time." "He does?" I asked, surprised. "Oh yes," she said with a tight smile. "He says it reminds him of his ex. Isn't that funny?" Later that night, I accidentally overheard Ashley and Mom talking on the resort balcony. I had stepped outside for fresh air, but their voices carried from around the corner. "I just don't understand why she couldn't cut it," Ashley was saying. "Just for my wedding." "She's always been selfish about her appearance," Mom replied. "You remember how she had to be the prettiest one at your high school graduation party." I froze, confused and hurt. I had no memory of trying to outshine Ashley at her graduation. In fact, I deliberately worn a simple sundress and minimal makeup that day. "Everyone will be looking at her walking down the aisle with that hair," Ashley continued. "She'll steal my spotlight just by existing." I slipped back inside before they could discover me eavesdropping, my mind reeling. Was this really how they saw me? As deliberately trying to outshine Ashley? The thought kept me awake that night, examining years of interactions in a new and troubling light. When I mentioned some of Ashley's behavior to Eric during a rare evening together, his reaction was immediate and firm. "Mel, this isn't normal. Your family is taking advantage of your kindness. They're manipulating you into feeling bad about yourself to make Ashley feel better." "That's not fair," I said, defensive despite my own doubts. "They're just trying to make her wedding special. At your expense," Eric pointed out. "And you're letting them do it." "They're my family," I said, as if that explained everything. Eric took my hand. "That doesn't give them the right to treat you this way. Being family should mean they build you up, not tear you down." I dismissed his concerns, attributing them to his outsider perspective. After all, he hadn't grown up with siblings. How could he understand the complex dynamics between sisters? In hindsight, his objective view was exactly what I needed, but loyalty kept me blind to the truth that was becoming increasingly obvious. As the wedding approached, I continued to pour my heart into preparations while ignoring the growing knot of unease in my stomach. I told myself that once the wedding was over, things would return to normal. I didn't yet understand that normal in my family had never been healthy in the first place. 2 days before the wedding arrived with a flurry of last-minute details and heightened emotions. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled at Bellini's, an upscale Italian restaurant with a private room overlooking the river. I'd spent the morning picking up Ashley's wedding dress from Final Alterations, collecting welcome bags for out-of-town guests, and confirming details with vendors. By the time I arrived at the restaurant, elegantly dressed in a forest green cocktail dress, I was exhausted but determined to keep everything running smoothly. Ashley looked stunning in a white lace mini dress, her blonde hair styled in loose waves. She greeted guests with Trevor by her side, both of them looking appropriately blissful. The dinner proceeded without issue until the best man, Ryan, stood to give his toast. After sharing a few heartfelt words about Trevor's character, he pivoted to their friendship. "I've known Trevor since college, and I've seen him date a lot of women," Ryan said, raising his glass. "But none of them stick in my memory like Ashley. Maybe because she called my apartment 15 times the night after their first date." Awkward laughter rippled through the room. Ashley's smile became brittle. "And Trevor," Ryan continued, oblivious to the tension, "remember when you first saw her at that work event and said, 'She's pretty, but did you see her sister?'" The room went silent. All eyes darted between Ashley, Trevor, and me. Trevor's face flushed crimson as he tugged at Ryan's sleeve, trying to get him to sit down. Before anyone could react further, I stood up, glass in hand. I think what Ryan meant to highlight is how Trevor quickly recognized the amazing woman Ashley is, inside and out. Their connection was instant and special. To Ashley and Trevor, guests raised their glasses in relief, and conversation gradually resumed. I caught Trevor mouthing "thank you" from across the table, while Ashley stared at her plate, lips pressed into a thin line. As dinner wound down, Ashley approached me by the dessert table, her voice low and venomous. "You just couldn't help yourself, could you? Had to play the hero and make everyone love you more than me." "Again." "Ashley, I was trying to save an awkward moment," I whispered back. Ryan was making things worse. "Oh, please," she hissed. "You loved hearing that Trevor noticed you first. You probably wish he had chosen you instead of me." I stepped back, stunned by the accusation. "That's ridiculous. I'm with Eric. I've never thought of Trevor that way." "Liar," she spat. "You've been trying to outshine me this entire engagement. With your perfect little centerpieces and your helpful suggestions and your goddamn princess hair that everyone compliments." Before I could respond, Mom appeared beside us, putting a warning hand on my arm. "Girls, not here. Melanie, help your sister say goodbye to the guests. It's her night." I swallowed my defense and did as asked, smiling beside Ashley as guests departed. Trevor seemed oblivious to the tension, chatting happily with his relatives. By the time we left the restaurant, my jaw ached from forcing a pleasant expression. Back at my parents' house, where I was staying to help with final wedding preparations, the atmosphere remained strained. Dad poured himself a nightcap in the kitchen while Mom fussed over Ashley, assuring her the dinner had been perfect despite that thoughtless toast. "I'm going to bed," I announced, exhausted by the emotional and physical toll of the day. "We have an early appointment at the salon tomorrow." "Yes, get your beauty sleep," Ashley replied with an edge to her voice. "We all know how important your appearance is to you." I ignored the barb and headed upstairs to my old bedroom, now converted to a guest room but still containing remnants of my teenage years, debate team trophies, faded photographs, a bulletin board with college acceptance letters. I changed into pajamas and took a mild sleep aid, hoping it would quiet my racing thoughts and help me rest before another demanding day. The medication worked quickly, pulling me into a deep, dreamless sleep. I'm not sure how long I had been sleeping when a strange sensation partially roused me, a tugging at my scalp, muffled voices. In my sedated state, I couldn't fully wake or make sense of what was happening. I drifted back under, dismissing it as part of a dream. When I finally woke the next morning, something felt wrong immediately. My head felt lighter, different. I reached up to push my hair from my face and found nothing. Just short, jagged ends where my long locks should have been. For several seconds, I couldn't process what I was feeling. I stumbled to the mirror in confusion and stared at my reflection in horror. My beautiful waist-length hair had been chopped off in uneven chunks, none longer than my chin. Some pieces were cut so close to the scalp that the pale skin showed through. "No," I whispered, touching the ruined remains.
No, no, no.
I rushed to the bathroom, hoping against logic that I could somehow fix it, that this was some terrible misunderstanding. In the hallway trash bin, I found the evidence: long strands of my auburn hair stuffed carelessly beneath tissues and empty toothpaste tubes. Rage and disbelief propelled me downstairs, where I found my parents sitting at the kitchen table, drinking coffee as if it were a normal morning. "What did you do to me?" I demanded, voice shaking. They exchanged glances before Mom spoke. "We knew you wouldn't agree if we asked." The casual admission knocked the breath from my lungs. "You cut my hair while I was sleeping?" "My hair. It will grow back, Melanie," Dad said, not quite meeting my eyes. "It's just hair." "Just hair? I've been growing it for over 10 years. Tears sprang to my eyes. "How could you do this to me?" "It's for Ashley's big day," Mom explained, as if this made perfect sense. "She needs this one day to feel special, to be the center of attention." "Is that really too much to ask?" I stared at them, unable to comprehend their reasoning. "You violated me while I was sleeping. You had no right to touch my body." "Don't be so dramatic," Dad said, his tone hardening. "Family makes sacrifices for each other. Your sister has always lived in your shadow. The least you could do is let her shine on her wedding day by cutting my hair off without my consent." My voice rose with incredulity. "That's not a sacrifice, that's assault." "Assault," Mom scoffed. "Listen to yourself. We're your parents. That doesn't give you the right to cut my hair while I'm unconscious." I was shouting now, tears streaming down my face. "What is wrong with you people?" Neither of them apologized. Instead, they watched me with expressions that mixed pity with annoyance, as if I were having an irrational tantrum. The reality hit me then: they genuinely believed they were justified. In their minds, mutilating my hair while I slept was a reasonable action to take for Ashley's benefit. I retreated to my room and called Eric, barely able to speak through my sobs. He couldn't understand what had happened at first, making me repeat myself 3 times. "They did what?" he finally roared. "I'm coming to get you right now." "That's assault, Mel. That's a crime." While waiting for Eric, I called my friend Zoe, a professional hairstylist. "I need emergency help," I told her, voice trembling. "Can you come to Eric's place? It's bad." I packed my things quickly, not wanting to spend another minute in my parents' house. As I was zipping my suitcase, my phone rang. "Ashley. Mom says you're having a meltdown," she said without preamble. "What's going on?" "As if you don't know," I replied coldly. "They cut off my hair while I was sleeping. For your wedding." A pause then. "Oh,
That.
I thought maybe they'd just trim it a little." Her lack of shock confirmed what I already suspected. She knew about their plan all along. "You knew they were going to do this to me?" "Well," Ashley hesitated. "We discussed that your hair might be distracting in the wedding photos. Mom said she'd handle it." "Handle it?" "They assaulted me in my sleep."
Don't be so dramatic, Mel.
"It's just hair. At least now people will actually look at me on my wedding day instead of you." Those words, "at least now people will look at me," crystallized everything. Years of competition, insecurity, and manipulation suddenly made perfect sense. This wasn't about a wedding. It was about systematically diminishing me to elevate Ashley. "I won't be in your wedding," I said quietly.
What?
"You can't back out now. You're my maid of honor. You should have thought of that before you condoned cutting my hair off while I slept." "You'll ruin everything," Ashley shrieked. "What am I supposed to tell people? How will it look if my own sister isn't there?" "That's not my problem anymore." Eric arrived shortly after, his face darkening with anger when he saw my butchered hair. He wrapped me in a tight hug as I broke down again, the full weight of the betrayal crashing over me. "We're leaving," he said firmly. "Right now." My parents attempted to block our exit. Dad stepping in front of the door with his arms crossed. "You're being childish, Melanie," he said. "The wedding is tomorrow. You have responsibilities." "Move," Eric said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Or I will call the police and report what you did to her." They let us leave, though not without Mom calling after me that I was breaking Ashley's heart and ruining the most important day of her life. As Eric drove us to his apartment, my phone buzzed constantly with texts and calls from my family. I turned it off, unable to bear any more of their twisted logic. The violation I felt went beyond the physical act of cutting my hair. It was the realization that my family, the people who should love and protect me, had conspired to harm me for something as superficial as wedding photos. They had decided my bodily autonomy was less important than Ashley's insecurities, and they expected me to accept this treatment without complaint. For the first time, I saw clearly what Eric had been trying to tell me. This wasn't love. This was toxic, manipulative, and wrong. And I was done sacrificing myself on the altar of Ashley's ego. Eric's apartment became my sanctuary that day. He made tea while I sat numbly on his couch, still trying to process what had happened. When I caught glimpses of my reflection in his television screen or kitchen appliances, I barely recognized myself. It wasn't just the physical change. Something in my eyes had shifted too. "They've gone too far this time, Mel," Eric said, sitting beside me. "What they did is legally assault. We could press charges if you wanted to." The idea seemed both extreme and entirely justified. "I don't know if I could handle a legal battle right now," I admitted. "But I know I can't go back there. I can't pretend this is okay." "You don't have to," he assured me, taking my hand. "You can stay here as long as you need." Zoe arrived an hour later with her professional kit. Her eyes widened when she saw my chopped hair, professionalism momentarily giving way to shock.
Holy shit, Mel.
"When you said emergency, I thought maybe you'd try to trim your own bangs." She circled me, assessing the damage with growing anger. "Who did this? It looks like they used garden shears." "My parents," I said, the words still feeling surreal. "While I was sleeping. So, I wouldn't outshine my sister at her wedding." Zoe's mouth fell open. "That's the most messed up thing I've ever heard. That's assault." "That's what I said." Eric called from the kitchen where he was making more tea. "Can you fix it?" I asked quietly. Zoe placed her hands gently on my shoulders. "I can make it look intentional instead of like you lost a fight with a lawnmower. But Mel, there's no quick fix for this length. We're talking a pixie cut at best." I nodded, fresh tears threatening. "Just make it stop looking like this." While Zoe worked, carefully evening out the jagged ends and shaping what remained into something deliberate, my phone continued to vibrate on the coffee table. I turned the sound off but could see it lighting up with calls from Mom, Dad, and Ashley. Finally, I answered one of Ashley's calls, putting it on speaker so Eric and Zoe could hear. "Where are you?" she demanded immediately. "Mom says you took all your stuff and left." "I'm at Eric's. I'm not coming back. But the wedding is tomorrow. The hair and makeup people are coming at 9. We have the final venue walkthrough at 11. I won't be there, Ashley. I can't be your maid of honor anymore." A pause. Then her voice dropped to a softer, wheedling tone. "Look, I know you're upset about your hair. But we can fix it. We'll get you a wig. No one will even notice." The casual way she dismissed what had been done to me, as if it were a minor inconvenience rather than a profound violation, strengthened my resolve. This isn't about how I'll look in your wedding photos. This is about the fact that my family conspired to assault me in my sleep. "God, you're so dramatic." "It's just hair. It's my body," I countered. "And you all decided you had the right to alter it without my consent while I was unconscious." "Fine," Ashley snapped, dropping the pretense of sympathy. "Be selfish. You've always been selfish. Do you have any idea how it feels to be your sister? To always be the plain one. The forgettable one? The one boys look past to get to you. That's not my fault, Ashley. And it doesn't justify what you did." "Oh, please," she scoffed. "You love the attention. You thrive on it. Even now, you're making my wedding about you. By refusing to participate after you violated me, that's making it about me. You're ruining everything. Her voice rose to a shout. If you don't show up tomorrow, don't bother coming home for Christmas either. Or Thanksgiving. Or ever again. Is that supposed to be a threat? I asked quietly. Because right now, that sounds like a relief. She hung up, and the apartment fell silent except for the soft snip of Zoe's scissors. She knew, I said after a moment. She knew they were going to cut my hair. Of course she did, Zoe replied, gently turning my head to work on another section. This wasn't some impulsive thing. They planned this. The realization settled heavily in my chest. My sister hadn't just allowed this to happen. She had likely instigated it. The parents who should have protected me had instead become weapons in Ashley's campaign to diminish me. My phone lit up again, Dad calling this time. Against my better judgment, I answered. Melanie Elizabeth Williams, he began in his sternest voice. You will stop this childish behavior right now and come home. Your sister is in tears. Your mother is beside herself. I'm not coming back, I said firmly.
What you did was wrong, Dad.
It was a violation. We did what we had to do, he insisted. Ashley has spent her whole life competing with you. She deserves one day where she's the star. At the expense of my bodily autonomy? You cut my hair without permission while I was drugged on sleep medication. It's for family, he said, as if that explained everything. Sometimes we make sacrifices.
No, Dad.
This wasn't a sacrifice I chose to make.
It was something you did to me.
There's a difference. If you don't show up tomorrow, you'll break your sister's heart and embarrass this family in front of everyone we know. Is that really what you want? The guilt trip might have worked a day earlier. But now, with Zoe carefully salvaging what remained of my hair and Eric's supportive presence beside me, I saw the manipulation for what it was. What I want is a family that respects my boundaries and doesn't assault me while I'm sleeping. Since that's apparently too much to ask, I'll be staying away. Dad's voice hardened. If you're not at that wedding tomorrow, don't expect anything from us going forward. No help with your condo down payment. No Christmas presents. Nothing. The financial threat should have scared me. I had been saving for a down payment, and my parents had promised to help. But instead, it clarified things further. Their love and support were conditional on my compliance with their twisted family dynamics. I understand, I said calmly. Goodbye, Dad. After I hung up, the three of us sat in silence for a moment. Then Zoe spoke up. You know what? Screw them. We're going to make you look so good with this haircut that they'll regret ever touching a single strand. Eric nodded in agreement. And you don't need their money for a down payment. We've been talking about moving in together anyway. We can pool our savings. Their support washed over me like a healing balm. For years, I had accepted my family's treatment because I thought that's what love looked like, sacrificing yourself for others. But here were two people showing me what real love was: respect, support, and righteous anger on my behalf. As evening fell, I made my decision. I wouldn't be bullied into attending Ashley's wedding as if nothing had happened. But I also wouldn't give my family the satisfaction of portraying me as the villain who abandoned her sister on her wedding day. I would take control of this narrative. I need to make some calls, I told Eric and Zoe. I have an idea. The plan formed quickly, not a vengeful scheme to ruin Ashley's wedding, but a way to reclaim my power and expose the truth while maintaining my dignity. I wouldn't stoop to their level, but I wouldn't hide either. For the first time since waking up to my butchered hair, I felt a sense of calm purpose. My family had underestimated me, assuming I would either comply with their demands or fall apart completely. They never considered that I might find a third option, one that would allow me to stand up for myself, without sacrificing my integrity. As Zoe put the finishing touches on my new hairstyle, I caught my reflection in her hand mirror. The short pixie cut emphasized my cheekbones and eyes in a way my long hair never had. It looked intentional, edgy, and, surprisingly, it suited me. What do you think? Zoe asked anxiously. I think, I said slowly, that this is the beginning of something new. The morning after the hair-cutting incident, Zoe returned to Eric's apartment for final styling. She brought professional products to enhance my new pixie cut, working with gentle hands and fierce determination. "We're going to turn this violation into a victory," she declared, applying a texturizing paste to create piece-wide definition around my face. "This cut actually brings out your bone structure in a way your long hair never did." Looking in the mirror, I had to admit she was right. The short style accentuated my green eyes and high cheekbones, creating an elegant, sophisticated look I'd never considered for myself. It was different, but not in the way my family had intended. Rather than diminishing me, the new style had a striking effect. "We need to document this transformation," Eric suggested, already reaching for his camera. "Show everyone this wasn't something that broke you." With my permission, he took photos as Zoe finished styling, capturing my new look from different angles, with various expressions. In each image, I looked confident, even defiant, not at all like someone who had been victimized. "These are amazing, Mel," Eric said, showing me the photos. "You look like a model." An idea sparked. "Let's go shopping," I announced. "I need something to wear." We headed to Nordstrom, where I bypassed the dress department and went straight to the designer suits. The salesperson helped me find a tailored ivory women's tuxedo with slim-cut pants and a fitted jacket. It was modern, unexpected, and absolutely stunning with my new haircut. "This is perfect," I said, examining my reflection. Completely different from what I would have worn before. Eric whistled low when I emerged from the fitting room. "You look incredible. Powerful." That's exactly how I wanted to feel, powerful rather than victimized. The suit represented my transformation, both external and internal. I was no longer the compliant daughter and sister who would sacrifice her own well-being to keep the peace. I was someone new, someone with boundaries and self-respect. Back at Eric's apartment, I called Rebecca, a childhood friend who had experienced similar family dynamics. She had distanced herself from her own toxic relatives years ago and had been urging me to establish stronger boundaries with mine. "They did what?" she exclaimed when I explained what had happened. "Mel, that's assault. You could press charges." "I know," I sighed. "But right now, I'm more focused on getting through tomorrow with my dignity intact." Rebecca was silent for a moment. "You know, I have a connection who might be interested in this story. My cousin Sam works for the local newspaper. He covers human interest pieces. This kind of family drama would be right up his alley." "I don't want to create a huge scandal," I said hesitantly. "It wouldn't be a front-page exposé," she assured me. "Just a thoughtful piece about boundaries and family dynamics. You wouldn't even have to use your real names if you didn't want to." I considered it. Having a journalist document what had happened would ensure my family couldn't twist the narrative later. "Let me think about it. Maybe have Sam reach out to me after the wedding." Next, I contacted Trevor's parents, whom I'd met several times during engagement celebrations. They had always been kind to me, and I sensed they found my family's dynamics somewhat odd. "Mrs. Kennedy? It's Melanie, Ashley's sister." "Melanie, are you excited about tomorrow? Ashley tells us you've been such a help with everything." I took a deep breath. "Actually, that's why I'm calling. There's been a situation, and I wanted you to hear it from me rather than through rumors tomorrow." I explained what had happened, not to turn them against Ashley, but to ensure they understood why I might not be in the wedding party as planned. Mrs. Kennedy's horrified gasps told me everything I needed to know about how normal people viewed what my family had done. "I don't even have words," she finally said. "Does Trevor know about this?" "I don't think so," I replied honestly. "And I'm not calling to cause problems between him and Ashley. I just wanted you to know why things might be different tomorrow." "Of course, dear. Thank you for telling me. And Melanie? I'm so sorry this happened to you." Her simple validation brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you for saying that." My next call was to Jason, a photographer friend who had originally offered to shoot Ashley's wedding as his gift before she insisted on hiring a more expensive professional. I explained the situation and asked if he would be available to document the day, not as the official photographer, but as someone who could capture candid moments. "Just so there's a record of what actually happens," I explained. "In case my family tries to spin things later." "I've got your back," Jason assured me. I'll be discreet but thorough. Throughout the afternoon, my phone continued to explode with messages. Mom sent manipulative texts about how I was breaking Ashley's heart. Dad left voicemails threatening to cut me out of their will. Ashley alternated between raging accusations and tearful pleas for me to reconsider. I ignored them all, focusing instead on preparing a thoughtful wedding gift despite everything. I had commissioned a custom watercolor painting of the venue months ago as a surprise. The artist had captured the historic stone building with its ivy-covered walls and flowering gardens, the exact view Ashley and Trevor would see as they spoke their vows. I wrote a simple card to accompany it. Ashley and Trevor, may your marriage be built on mutual respect, healthy boundaries, and genuine love. Congratulations, Melanie. That evening, a text arrived from Ashley that surprised me. Mom got you a wig. Come to the rehearsal brunch tomorrow at 10. We'll pretend nothing happened. This was my opening. I'll be there, I replied simply. Eric looked concerned when I showed him the message. Are you sure about this? After everything they did? I'm sure, I said firmly. But I'm not going to wear a wig or pretend nothing happened. I'm going on my terms. That night, I wrote a longer letter to Ashley, not for the wedding, but for afterward. It detailed how our actions and our parents had affected me, established clear boundaries for any future relationship, and explained the consequences of their choices. It wasn't angry or accusatory, just clear and firm. I love you as my sister, I concluded, but I can no longer allow you to treat me as less than. Your insecurities do not justify cruelty. I hope someday you'll understand that true confidence comes from within, not from diminishing others. I sealed the letter in an envelope, planning to leave it with the wedding gift. Then I turned to social media, not to create drama, but to reclaim my narrative. I posted several of the stunning photos Eric had taken of my new haircut with a simple caption, "New look, new chapter." Sometimes unexpected changes turn out to be exactly what we needed. Hashtag short hair don't care, hashtag new beginnings. Within minutes, comments flooded in from friends and colleagues. OMG, you look amazing. This cut was made for your face. Total power move. Love it. I didn't mention how or why the change had happened. I didn't need to. The overwhelmingly positive response was the first step in transforming what my family had intended as humiliation into something empowering. Before bed, Eric held me close. I'm proud of you, he murmured against my hair. What you're doing takes incredible strength. I just want to handle this with grace, I said. To stand up for myself without stooping to their level. That's exactly what makes it so powerful, he replied. You're breaking the cycle. You're showing them there's another way to be. As I drifted off to sleep that night, in a bed where no one would violate me, I felt a surprising sense of calm. Tomorrow would be difficult, but it would also be the first day of a new chapter in my life. One where I define my worth, not anyone else. My family had attempted to dim my light to make Ashley shine brighter. Instead, they had inadvertently helped me find a brilliance within myself that couldn't be extinguished by something as superficial as a haircut. That revelation was a gift I hadn't expected, and one they had never intended to give. The morning of Ashley's wedding dawned clear and bright, sunlight streaming through Eric's blinds as if the universe itself approved of my plans. I woke feeling strangely calm, centered in a way I hadn't experienced before. The initial shock and hurt had crystallized into determination. I took my time getting ready, applying makeup that emphasized my eyes and cheekbones, accentuating rather than hiding my new look. The ivory suit hung ready on the closet door, a visual reminder of my transformation. When I finally stood fully dressed before the mirror, even I was taken aback by the reflection. The woman staring back at me looked confident, sophisticated, and undeniably striking. The pixie cut that my family had intended as punishment had instead become a declaration of independence. The suit, with its clean lines and modern silhouette, communicated strength rather than submission. You look incredible, Eric said from the doorway, already dressed in his charcoal suit and pale blue tie. Absolutely stunning. I feel different, I admitted. Like this is who I was meant to be all along. We arrived at the venue, a historic stone mansion with sprawling gardens, 40 minutes before the scheduled brunch. I had deliberately come early to help as I had promised weeks ago, demonstrating that despite everything, I was still a person of integrity. The wedding coordinator spotted me immediately, rushing over with a clipboard and a harried expression. "Melanie, thank God you're here." The florist delivered the wrong shade of roses for the head table, and Ashley is having a meltdown in the bridal suite. "I'll handle the flowers," I said calmly. "Which ones did they bring?" "Blush instead of dusty rose," she replied, already looking relieved. "The blush will actually complement the linens better," I assured her. "Let me rearrange them slightly and add some greenery from the garden arrangements. No one will know it wasn't the original plan." As I worked quickly with the centerpieces, adding sprigs of eucalyptus and rearranging the blooms to create a more organic, abundant look, staff members and early arriving family members did double takes as they passed. "Melanie, is that you?" Trevor's Aunt Martha's approached, eyes wide. "Your hair. It's absolutely adorable on you." "Thank you," I replied with a genuine smile. It was time for a change. I had just finished the flower arrangements when Ashley entered the garden with our parents and Trevor's family. The conversation died immediately as they spotted me. Ashley froze mid-sentence, her face cycling through shock, confusion, and anger. Mom's hand flew to her mouth, while Dad's expression darkened ominously. Trevor, walking beside them, simply looked puzzled by the sudden tension. "What are you doing?" Ashley hissed as she reached me. "Where's the wig?" "I decided not to wear one," I replied evenly. "This is what I look like now." "You're trying to ruin my wedding," she accused, voice rising. "You cut your hair even shorter just to make a scene?" Trevor's mother stepped forward, her expression concerned. "Ashley, dear, is everything all right?" "No, it's not all right. My sister is trying to sabotage my wedding by showing up looking like this." Mrs. Kennedy's brow furrowed. "I think Melanie looks lovely. Very elegant." "You don't understand," Mom interjected, pulling Ashley protectively against her side. "Melanie knows Ashley wanted to be the center of attention today. This is just another way of stealing her spotlight." Trevor looked increasingly confused. "Why would Melanie's haircut steal anyone's spotlight? It's just hair." "Exactly what I said," I replied calmly. "It's just hair." Dad stepped forward, attempting to steer me away from the group. "Melanie, we need to talk privately." "No, we don't," I stated firmly. "There's nothing to discuss. I'm here to celebrate Ashley and Trevor's wedding, looking exactly as I am." "We got you a wig," Mom insisted, her voice tight with controlled anger. "Either wear it or leave." Trevor's father, who had been listening silently, spoke up. "Forgive me for intruding, but am I understanding correctly that you're asking Melanie to wear a wig because you don't like her haircut?" The simplicity of his question highlighted the absurdity of their demand. Ashley must have realized this too, because she quickly changed tactics. "It's not about the haircut," she said, forcing a smile. "It's just that we had a specific look planned for the wedding party. For the photos." "The photos will be beautiful," I assured her. "A maid of honor with short hair won't ruin anything." "You're not the maid of honor anymore," Ashley snapped. "Jessica is." Jessica, who had just arrived and was standing nearby, looked startled. "What? Since when?" "Since now," Ashley replied tersely. "Melanie, you can sit with the regular guests. Far back." Trevor was watching this exchange with growing concern. "Ashley, what's going on? Why are you replacing your sister as maid of honor because of a haircut?" Mrs. Kennedy touched her son's arm. "Trevor, there's something you should know. Melanie called me yesterday." She lowered her voice, but in the tense silence, her words carried. "Ashley's parents cut Melanie's hair while she was sleeping. Without permission." Trevor's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. "What? Is that true?" All eyes turned to my parents, who had the grace to look momentarily uncomfortable before Dad attempted to regain control. "It was a family matter," he said dismissively. "Melanie is being dramatic." They drugged me with sleep medication and cut off my hair while I was unconscious, I stated clearly. Because they thought I would outshine Ashley at the wedding with my long hair. Trevor stared at Ashley. Did you know about this? Her hesitation was answer enough. Oh my God, he murmured, taking a step back. You did, didn't you? The wedding coordinator, sensing disaster, intervened. Perhaps we should all take a moment to breathe. The ceremony isn't for 3 hours, and guests are arriving for brunch. This reminder of public appearances immediately affected my parents, who plastered on fake smiles while whispering furiously to Ashley. Trevor pulled away from the group, walking toward the garden with his father following close behind. Jessica and Tara approached me, their expressions sympathetic. Is it really true? Jessica asked quietly. They cut your hair while you were sleeping? I nodded. That's messed up, Tara said bluntly. And your hair looks amazing now, by the way. The cut suits you perfectly. Their support, especially as Ashley's friends, meant more than they could know. Throughout brunch, other guests complimented my new look, completely unaware of the drama behind it. Each positive comment was a small victory, undermining my family's attempt to humiliate me. I maintained a dignified presence throughout the pre-wedding activities, helping where needed and graciously accepting my demotion from maid of honor, without complaint. My calm confidence seemed to unnerve Ashley and my parents more than any angry outburst would have. Jason, my photographer friend, circulated discreetly, capturing candid moments, including Ashley's visible annoyance every time someone complimented my appearance, and Trevor's increasingly thoughtful expression as he observed his future in-laws. The ceremony proceeded as planned, though with a palpable tension underlying the traditional vows and rituals. I sat in the audience beside Eric, who squeezed my hand supportively throughout. From this vantage point, I could see what I might have missed as part of the wedding party. The way Trevor hesitated slightly before saying, I do, the concerned glances his parents exchanged, the forced quality of Ashley's smile in what should have been her happiest moment. At the reception, I approached the head table with the beautifully wrapped painting and my sealed letter. Ashley accepted both with obvious suspicion. What is this? She asked, eyeing the envelope. The gift is a painting of the venue, I explained. The letter is private, for after the honeymoon. Before she could respond, the DJ announced it was time for toasts. Jessica, in her hastily assumed role as maid of honor, gave a generic speech about friendship and love. When it was my turn to speak, a slot the coordinator had maintained despite my removal from the wedding party, I rose with quiet dignity. Ashley and Trevor, I began, my voice steady. Today marks the beginning of your journey together as partners. True partnership requires mutual respect, honesty, and the courage to see each other as you truly are, not as you wish the other to be. I raise my glass slightly. May your marriage be built on a foundation of truth and respect. May you lift each other up rather than tear each other down. And may you always remember that love is not about possession or control, but about supporting each other's growth and happiness. The simple toast, devoid of any direct reference to recent events yet laden with meaning, left a thoughtful silence in its wake. Trevor met my eyes across the room, his expression unreadable but intense. Throughout the evening, I engaged in strategic conversations with key guests who asked directly about my dramatic change in appearance or my absence from the wedding party. I never volunteered information, but when asked directly, I told the simple truth without embellishment. Yes, my parents cut my hair while I was sleeping 2 nights ago. They felt it would make Ashley more comfortable on her wedding day. The shocked reactions, the widened eyes, the gasps of disbelief were validation enough. I didn't need to editorialize or exaggerate. The facts spoke for themselves. As the reception continued, Trevor spent noticeably little time with his new bride, instead engaged in serious conversation with his parents in a corner of the venue. Ashley, monitoring this from across the room, grew increasingly agitated, her perfect day clearly not proceeding as planned. When it was time for the bouquet toss, I positioned myself near the exit, planning a graceful early departure. Ashley, spotting me, suddenly altered her trajectory and hurled the bouquet directly at my face with unnecessary force. I caught it reflexively, prompting cheers from unaware guests and a look of pure fury from my sister. Taking this as my cue to leave, I handed the bouquet to a delighted teenage cousin and found Eric by the bar. "I think we've accomplished what we came to do," I said quietly. "Let's go." As we made our discreet exit, I caught Trevor watching us leave, his expression troubled. Ashley, surrounded by bridesmaids but looking strangely isolated, didn't notice our departure until we were already gone. In the car, Eric turned to me. "You were incredible in there. Absolutely dignified." I leaned back against the headrest, suddenly exhausted but satisfied. I didn't want revenge that would hurt innocent people or create a spectacle. I just wanted the truth to be seen. "Mission accomplished," Eric said, starting the engine. The truth was definitely seen today. As we drove away from the venue, I felt lighter than I had in years. I had faced my family's toxic dynamics head-on and refused to participate in their manipulation any longer. Whatever happened next, I knew I had reclaimed my power and my self-respect. And that was revenge enough. 3 days after the wedding, while Ashley and Trevor were supposedly honeymooning in Barbados, the local newspaper published a feature story titled "Wedding Day Trauma: When Family Boundaries Are Violated." Without using our real names, the article detailed what had happened, including interviews with professional therapists who unequivocally condemned the haircutting as assault and a violation of bodily autonomy. I hadn't sought this publicity. Rebecca's cousin Sam had indeed reached out after hearing rumors, and I had simply confirmed the facts, but I didn't regret it either. The story struck a chord, quickly being picked up by several online platforms and sparking discussions about toxic family dynamics and the pressure placed on women's appearances for weddings. My phone rang constantly that week, friends expressing support, distant relatives choosing sides, and even strangers who had found my social media and wanted to share similar experiences. The most surprising call came from Trevor's mother. "Melanie? It's Carol Kennedy. I wanted you to know that Trevor and Ashley aren't actually in Barbados." "They're not?" I asked, confused.
No.
"Trevor, well, he's staying with us. He said he needed time to think about whether he wants to remain married to someone who would violate her own sister's autonomy that way." I hadn't anticipated this outcome and felt a complicated mix of emotions. While I hadn't intended to damage Ashley's marriage, I couldn't pretend to be sorry that Trevor was seriously considering the red flags he'd witnessed. "I hope they can work things out," I said honestly. "If Ashley is willing to get help and understand why what she did was wrong." "That's very gracious of you," Carol replied. "And for what it's worth, Robert, and I think your parents' behavior was absolutely unconscionable. We want you to know you're always welcome in our home, regardless of what happens with Ashley and Trevor." This unexpected allyship brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you. That means more than you know." The fallout with my immediate family was predictably explosive. Mom and Dad left scathing voicemails accusing me of deliberately humiliating them and ruining Ashley's marriage. They threatened to disown me, to write me out of their will, to tell family friends what you're really like. Each threat that once would have devastated me now simply confirmed I was making the right choice in distancing myself. I didn't respond to any of them, instead forwarding the messages to my newly hired therapist as documentation of the patterns we were working to address. 2 weeks after the wedding, I officially moved in with Eric. We found a sunny apartment with enough space for both my interior design work and his photography, a fresh start untainted by family drama. My new short haircut became something of a signature look, drawing compliments from clients who found it both professional and distinctive. "I've never seen you this relaxed," my colleague Natalie remarked during lunch one day. "Even with everything that happened, you seem lighter somehow." I realized. Setting boundaries with my family has been the most freeing thing I've ever done. As weeks turned into months, I established a new normal. Weekly therapy sessions helped me recognize and process the patterns of manipulation I'd grown up with. I reconnected with extended family members who reached out in support, discovering relationships that had been stifled by my parents' controlling influence. 3 months after the wedding, I received a letter from Ashley. Unlike the angry texts and calls that had preceded it, this letter was reflective and subdued. "I've been seeing a therapist," she wrote. "Trevor made it a condition of trying to work on our marriage. At first, I went just to appease him, but I'm starting to see things differently now." She acknowledged, for the first time, the jealousy and insecurity that had driven her behavior. "I always felt like I was living in your shadow, but I never stopped to ask why that bothered me so much or whether it was even true. I was so focused on being the center of attention at my wedding that I lost sight of what really matters." The letter wasn't a perfect apology. She still minimized the haircutting as going too far rather than recognizing it as assault, but it was a start. I responded with a measured letter of my own, expressing appreciation for her willingness to seek help while maintaining the boundaries I'd established. "I'm open to rebuilding our relationship," I wrote, "but only if it's based on mutual respect. I won't accept being diminished to make you feel better about yourself." My parents' journey toward accountability was slower and more reluctant. It took 6 months, pressure from extended family, and the realization that I was serious about limited contact before they agreed to meet with me and a family therapist. Even then, they initially tried to frame what had happened as a misunderstanding rather than a deliberate violation. "We were just trying to help Ashley have her perfect day," Mom insisted during our first session. "By assaulting your other daughter?" the therapist asked pointedly. "That's a very harsh word," Dad objected. "But an accurate one," the therapist replied. "You altered Melanie's body, without her consent while she was unconscious. How would you describe that?" These sessions were difficult and draining, but necessary. Slowly, painfully, my parents began to recognize the toxic patterns they had perpetuated. They had consistently sacrificed my well-being for Ashley's demands, enabling her insecurities rather than helping her develop genuine self-esteem. 1 year after the wedding incident, my life had transformed in ways I couldn't have imagined. Eric and I were engaged, planning a small ceremony focused on authenticity rather than appearances. My design career was flourishing, with several high-profile clients seeking me out specifically. My relationship with Ashley was cautiously improving, built on new boundaries and her ongoing therapy work. My parents remained a work in progress. Sometimes they showed genuine remorse and understanding. Other times they slipped back into old patterns of guilt and manipulation. I maintained firm boundaries, limiting our contact to circumstances where I felt emotionally safe and respected. The most profound change, however, was internal. I no longer measured my worth through others' approval or sacrificed my well-being to keep the peace. I recognized manipulation tactics quickly and addressed them directly. I surrounded myself with people who celebrated rather than competed with me. My hair had grown out somewhat, settling into a chic bob that I decided to maintain. What had begun as an act of violation had become a symbol of liberation, a daily reminder that I had survived my family's worst behavior and emerged stronger. In my last therapy session of the year, my therapist asked what I had learned from the experience. "I learned that true love doesn't require diminishing yourself," I reflected. "That healthy relationships have room for everyone to shine. And that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to say no to mistreatment." As I look back on that painful chapter now, I feel gratitude alongside the lingering hurt. My parents and sister showed me who they truly were, giving me the clarity I needed to break free from unhealthy patterns. Their attempt to make me less visible had the opposite effect. It helped me find my voice and stand firmly in my power. If you're facing similar family dynamics, know that you deserve respect and bodily autonomy. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's essential for healthy relationships. Have you ever had to stand up to family pressure? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. Remember, sometimes the most painful experiences lead to the most profound growth. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find the courage to honor your own worth in every relationship.